All right. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to this month's Startup Minot Business Showcase and Networking event. It's February of 2026. We're almost through winter, and we are really excited about that. And today, we are excited to invigorate, encourage, and entice entrepreneurs here in the Minot area so we can help them execute their business idea, whether that's through education or networking or connecting them to agencies that help people boost their business. Our vision is to become an ecosystem that will be entrepreneur run. It's a broad community effort that will meet the needs of all who have an idea for their company, a business to run, or a problem to overcome. We hold these networking events with incredible guest speakers so we can learn from other entrepreneurs, from other startup companies, and in turn also how we as a community can help entrepreneurs succeed and grow. So your goal today might be to meet somebody new, to consider a new idea, to share an idea, to listen to someone's idea, to believe in someone's idea. That would be an incredible goal and maybe even helpful toward them taking their step in opening their business, growing their business, or overcoming a problem. Many partners make this happen, including the North Dakota Small Business Development Centers, Service Basin Planning Council, the Minot Chamber EDC, Credence Energy, Dakota Business Lending, and many from the private sectors. And we have some incredible sponsors that make this happen, including First Western Bank and Trust as our presenting sponsor, Minot Area Chamber EDC, the North Dakota Small Business Development Centers, Bank of North Dakota, Brevera Town and Country Credit Union, First International Bank and Trust, Cornerstone Bank, Credence Energy Services, People's State Bank, and Dakota Business Lending, all here supporting Startup Minot, which means they're all here in this community doing what they can to support businesses, entrepreneurs, and people with ideas. We are very excited to have as our guest this morning a Startup Minot Academy graduate, Kellie Harvey. Let's give a warm Startup Minot welcome to the owner of Kellie Photography.
That's right.
Kellie Harvey is a Minot local who began her career through content creation and social media management in 2019. What started with capturing other local businesses' offerings has evolved into a full-time entrepreneurial venture that now focuses on portraits, special events, and still life. Kellie Photography was built by a self-taught creative with a passion and love for seeing the beauty in what some may find ordinary. Kellie, it's been fantastic personally to watch your growth. I know I've shared that with you. I think it's always exciting in these small local areas. If you know somebody even on more of an acquaintance level through Facebook, then you get to know them and you watch their business grow. It's been exciting to watch Kellie's do that. And I know I kind of watched you start as a creative director for Atypical. And I know you were sharing that alongside your photography. Tell me how those two grew together into what you have today.
Yeah, I've always kind of said that my business started a little backwards or by accident. I started with Atypical Brewery in 2019, and over time, other local businesses would ask me to help them with their marketing, and I figured if I was getting paid, I should probably get it legally. So I started an LLC, and very specifically, I named that business Found Focus Media. I didn't say marketing because I didn't want to put myself in a box. I knew I wanted to learn how to work a camera one day, but I hadn't quite yet. And when I finally took my first picture with the camera, I was like, crap, now I really have to learn this because it looked so much better than my iPhone at the time. And so I convinced a friend of mine at that point then to be my test subject for boudoir. And I always called her the butt of my business instead of the face of my business because her butt was all of my marketing. And from there, it just kind of grew to, more product photography, a lot more portraits, a lot more families, and just kind of the growth of all of that. I think I've photographed a little bit of everything now because I just kind of say yes to everything. Otherwise, how else do you learn what you like and what you don't like? So if I didn't know how to do the shoot, I was like, sure, I'll do that. And then I'm Googling and researching how I can accomplish this task. And it's all worked out so far.
People say fake it till you make it is a bad statement or it's false.
Worked
but in
for
your
me.
case, it worked for you because you can say yes and then you can learn because there's so much information out there we can teach ourselves anything.
Always, yes.
So when you began, you didn't have a background in photography.
No, none actually. A lot of my family on both sides have dabbled with cameras, and my mom always had one growing up, and I remember she always was like, you put that neck strap on. And now I understand how important that neck strap is. But otherwise, no, like growing up through high school, college, all of that, I never was like, I want to be a photographer. It just kind of happened when I started taking pictures of beer and learned that it was fun to get creative with that and throw fruit to make a splash. And if you capture it perfectly, it's beautiful. And then I just kind of started playing with colors and people at that point.
Yeah, the beer photos on Atypical were always fun and exciting. I know, just as a follower of their social media, I looked forward to the beer pictures just to see what you would come up with next. So that was always really cool. Where does creativity begin for you? Were you always a creative person, or did it just come out of nowhere?
I didn't think that I was, but looking back, I do actually think that I was. I would stay after for art classes when it came to painting. I'm also very good at mimicking what a painting is. Like if I have a visual, then I can do a pretty good job at like recreating that. Off the top of my head, creative, I'm not that sense, like Sarah Pinier and Arvin, you know, the artists that we love. I don't have that ability, but I do like to be creative, and it's just kind of, yeah, like most people, that mind relaxer when you're doing something exciting like that and you're not tied down to a desk. I was never quite meant for that.
Yeah, I think that there are many forms of artistry and creativity, and relatably, it took me a long time to accept that, hey, I'm an artist too, and it's not just people who can draw or paint or play guitar. Storytellers are artists. Photographers are artists. You know, I think what you do with beer pictures, that was certainly art, and that was just the beginning, of course, as you mentioned, the beer pictures. So you started with Atypical, it was just kind of a job. And then you had that light bulb moment. Other businesses start asking you, your business naturally develops. Did you find yourself in over your head in the beginning, or what was your business plan? How did you map that out?
There never was one. There probably never will be one. But it was actually farther along than that it got to be overwhelming. When I first started with them, I was in college, and I knew at that point that I wasn't going to have a desk job. And so I was just kind of writing it out and seeing what would come of it. And then when I started doing photography, I was like, okay, this is something that I would like to do more full time, because I enjoyed it. I didn't go to a shoot and just, oh crap, I don't want to do this. Or I never left and I was like, oh, this was terrible. You know, like I was buzzing every time I would leave, and I loved being able to show somebody the back of the camera and be like, look how awesome you look, or look at your kid, look how cute they are, you know? Those were the things that kind of kept driving me. So then it was later on, probably within the last 2 or 3 years, as I was getting busier with photography, but was still very heavily working with Atypical, that time was running out. There was not enough time in the day, and I was working 14 to 16 hour days. And back then I thought that was a flex. I thought that was a brag. I was working so hard until I learned that there was no time for sleep. You know, there was no time for personal life and just taking care of yourself instead of just hustling all the time. And so then I had to make the change. About a year ago, I left Atypical of my current position and pursued photography full time, and gave it my all to see, okay, can I provide for myself and help support my family with this little dream of mine? And I was able to. And I did go back to Atypical to help with those beer pictures. And that's always been fun. That was always my favorite part of my job. So I still get to do that. But yeah, the challenge really came the last few years when I had to navigate golden hour, but also dinner time when they land on the same time for months, you know, in a row. So that part was probably the most challenging.
Yeah, the work-life balance. I've seen a lot of people lose sight of work to live or live to work, right? You don't want to live to work. You don't want everything. You don't want to be consumed by that. And it's great that you came to that realization. So I heard you mention college. So you do have a bit of college. How has your college experience helped you in your current career? What did you major in, or what did you take?
I changed my major about 5 times, I think at least. But I ended with a major in communications and then a minor in marketing. So it kind of has fit together. I didn't know how it would. And honestly, I think being a part of DECO when I was in college was almost more influential than my degree itself. Just learning how to network with people and sit down and have a conversation and bring a professionality to yourself, you know, and just, learning the elevator pitch. You know, how can you say something really important in 30 seconds? So that was probably one of the more important things that I've learned, because now I talk with people. It can be a really quick 30-second phone call, and in those 30 seconds, they're deciding if they want to hire me to be their photographer or not. So it does matter.
Once you initiated yourself as a business, you moved from Found Focus Media. Is that still a thing, or is it all under the banner of Kellie Photography?
No, I still have Found Focus Media. I've got a girl, Shy, with me in the back. She works with a handful of local businesses and handles their social media and their management. So I still have that on the back end. But I've learned that what made me the most happy was the photography. So I focused there, and then I've got this going on over here we can help other people where it's possible.
And it seems like in the beginning, you had a lot of people contacting you before you were making any effort to market yourself. Here you are with this background in marketing. So far, it sounds like you had to do little to no marketing, or did you?
No. I never even had a website for marketing. I started a Facebook page, and after a few months of me not posting, I realized it probably didn't look very good that I wasn't even posting on my own pages. So I just took that down, and everything has truly been word of mouth, just through the community, I would say. I mean, in the beginning years, I probably posted a couple of times, but otherwise, yeah, it's really all been word of mouth, and I'm very grateful for that. Photography, I post more, but people really need to see what your style is before they hire you for something. But yeah, the social media aspect of it, when people reach out, we just set up a meeting now and say, let's see if we're a good fit. What are your needs and what can we do for you?
How would you describe your photography style?
I think I give it cozy. There's words I specifically use to describe it. Cozy is one of them. I think cozy bold. I want the colors to be true. So if you've got a red sweatshirt on, you're going to have a red sweatshirt in the end of your photos instead of kind of a washed out muted tone. So I try to keep it very true to tone in that sense, but also kind of polished and light. And that depends on the weather that you've got, but also at the end of the day, every photographer's got a different editing style. I can go through and I can pick out, like, on Instagram, if I wasn't looking at the name, I could say, that's Lindsay Beanie, or that's Hannah, or that's Jen Johnson. I think we all have a very diverse style.
You ever have somebody that was really dissatisfied with their photos or your efforts to market their business and wanted to bring their receipt back and ask for a refund?
I think that happens. I would say social media wise, we've had that a handful of times, but there was a period of time where a lot of local businesses wanted an in-house marketing person. So it wasn't, I don't think necessarily that we were doing something wrong. It's just we couldn't provide all of it. We weren't doing the flyers. We can't do the website. We aren't trained in that type of thing. And so those were things where it was just the needs, the supply and demand were just different. Photography wise, I think once or twice I've had a couple tough scenarios that obviously will take a hit to you because you're like, I put everything into that. And those you just have to bounce back from because what else can you do? You just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's hard to take those punches. And it's I guess in your space, it's unique because you've provided this service that's a one-time thing. You've done the pictures, you've edited them, you've brought them back. And for someone to be like, yeah, this is a no for me. Can we get a do-over? That's a tough thing to face. It's not, you can't return it. It's not a spoiled ham you bought at Walmart.
I think more often, I always think that I screwed something up. So I'll come home and I'll be like, oh man, this didn't go well. Do you think I should give them a refund? Should I just give them their money back? That happened last fall. It was just kind of a doozy. The weather was off. It was a bunch of little kiddos. They loved their gallery so much that she brought me farm fresh eggs and homemade apple butter. And I was like, oh, okay, we're good.
And here you
didn't screw it. Yeah,
you
it's
were
just like
miserable
every once in a while I'm like, oh, I did not crush that. And usually I did better than I think I did because we're usually our own worst critics. So
something entrepreneurs often struggle with is identifying their value. How did you identify yours and learn how to charge what you're worth?
My husband helped me with that a lot. He's back there. I was thinking about this a lot yesterday. I don't know if it's the same for STEM-related entrepreneurs, but I think for sure for creatives, that imposter syndrome is huge, especially when you're starting out and you're looking at what other photographers in town, so in my instance specifically, what they can make. It's beautiful, and when you're starting out and you're shooting in auto, you're not even shooting in manual and, making your own settings yet. It's really daunting to try to think that you can even get there. And then you slowly do get there. But I've had so many conversations with him about, I think I need to up my prices. And he's like, okay, up them. And I'm like, oh, but I don't know if look at this. We went back and forth for years. And in addition to him, I would say the experiences that changed that for me the most were photography retreats. So I went to one in Bismarck 2 years ago, and it was like a fake wedding day. And so there were 2 photographers local to Bismarck that were hosting it. And then there was myself and I think maybe 6 or 7 other photographers. And I didn't know what to expect going in because I still felt like I was such a beginner. And throughout the day, by the time I left, I learned that I was on the same level that they were. Or, there was one that I would be like, oh, I want to be you when I grow up. She's my same age, but I want to be her. But there was probably somebody else that said that same thing about me because I was also able to bring different camera settings or creative ideas. And I left and I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Then I did another one in Virginia last year and it was the exact same scenario. Like I went in even daunting because I don't even know that market at all there. I just knew that where I was going was going to be absolutely stunning, and it was. It was the same. A lot of them just wanted to be creative, swap ideas, and I learned that I was right on par with what I was supposed to be doing.
And if I heard correct, you said those were photography retreats. So you were in pursuit of improving your excellence, finding ways to enhance your creativity, improve your skill set, the ongoing education that anybody who wants to be the best at what they do continues to do. And that's a great segue, because I wanted to ask, what has helped you as a professional? What has helped you as an entrepreneur? I know, as we mentioned, you were a graduate of Start Up Minot. I'd love to hear about your experience there, as well as just anything else that you would encourage other entrepreneurs seeking that self-improvement. What would you say to them, or how did you find your way into that?
Startup Minot wise, that one was a little confusing for me, only because I was right in between marketing and photography. So when you're in there, you're kind of focusing on one route, and I didn't really know what my route was going to be, because I was doing marketing, but I wanted to do photography, but I didn't know how to get there. But I met really cool people. I learned just different rules. I learned that I was very fortunate not to have startup costs. I bought my first camera for $50 from a friend, and that was how I started everything. So I didn't have a lot of investment, and I worked from home. So those were just little things that I learned. I was really fortunate that was the path that I took. And I think it's been really cool that I've seen other entrepreneurs my age that have now taken the class. And I was like, that's so cool that, people are still my age, still doing these things and still trying that for themselves. One area that I think is underappreciated, and I actually just posted this on Instagram the other day, is Facebook groups. I learned, I would say, like 80% of what I know photography-wise out of those Facebook groups. Photography pages, they can be savage in those. If you put a post up there and you add gentle CC, please, because otherwise they might tear you right apart. Boudoir photography groups are entirely different, because the experience of boudoir is so intimate and vulnerable. I think other boudoir photographers, we all just want to make sure that whoever's coming into that experience is as prepared and as comfortable as they can be. So in those groups, I scrolled for hours every night, looking at the posts, looking at the comments, watching the lives, and just seeing like, what gear are they using? How are they working in a small space? What kind of lighting? What tricks did you use to get that sparkle in the corner? Stuff like that. And they wanted to help. And if you were too afraid to ask the question, likely somebody else already did. So you can just use a little search bar at the top and search that and dive right back in. But there's a lot of free resources out there that can be just as beneficial as the ones people will spend thousands on.
That's a great share, and I think it really asserts the point to other people I know who I consider to be very excellent in their position. Easton Bennett is somebody I know a lot of you know Easton, and I think of him very similarly. He would get a new camera or he would get a new light, and then watch every YouTube video available about that light and how to use it properly, what situations to use it in. And this is really actionable advice that you've given, because no matter what your pursuit is, there's going to be a Facebook group out there for it. Mm-hmm. I'm in several for podcasting, and I have done exactly what you have done when I have been troubleshooting or learning, wanting to expand on what I'm doing, those Facebook groups. So I think it's great to know, everybody wants to know, well, what can I do? What are the actionable steps I can take? How do I get better at this? And you've just listed several examples right there. And not to mention, again, you also went on a photography retreats, several of them. And that was probably a little bit of vacation, a little bit of expansion, a little bit of entrepreneurship. But that's how those are meant to be, right? They're very connective. So we are getting close to the top of the hour. I'd love to open it up to questions here before we're done with Kellie. Does anybody out there have any questions for Kellie Harvey? Mark does, if no one else does. I know Mark will. But Katie's got one.
What are your favorite things to shoot?
Boudoir will always be my favorite. Giving that experience to a woman, they literally transform in like an hour in the studio. Like, they're nervous when they come in for glam and hair and makeup, even though they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Well, they have an idea anyways. About 5 minutes in the studio, all those nerves are gone, because I show them the back of the camera and I'm like, look how amazing you look. And they're like, I can't believe that's me. And then we do that for an hour. I can literally see them over time, like their features kind of change. They gain a little more confidence. They go into like model mode, and it's crazy. So then they're hugging me on the way out the door. Those are my favorite, because it's honest. It's hard out here for a woman. As women, we all know that. There's always something telling us how we should look and how we should dress and what the perfect body type is. And in boudoir, those don't exist. You just get to be a woman and embrace what you have. And sometimes, people get them as gifts for their partner in the beginning. And then by the time they leave, they're like, no, these are for me. Because they just feel so good about it. And then that's kind of trickled in also to maternity newborn, because again, it's a vulnerable stage. Your body is changing, your whole family dynamic and everything is changing. And so then you get to show people a little bit of nugget of how beautiful this portion of life is, because it can be terrifying. And there's so much emotion in a lot of those photos that, yeah, that's what I found is my favorite.
Kellie, what's the least favorite part of running this business? And then how do you overcome, or how have you learned to do better at that, increase your team? How did you solve that pinch point?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is back to that time management again, because there's only so many hours in the day, but we're supposed to get sleep, and yeah, we're supposed to take care of ourselves, and there's birthday parties to go to, and I might have a wedding booked, but also then I am invited to a wedding in the same day. Time management such as that's probably been the most difficult, because yeah, people say you quit your 8 to 5 to work for yourself and have more flexible hours, but when you're an entrepreneur, you work 24/7 just for yourself instead. So the messages are always coming in on Facebook, and the emails are always going to be there. And the first couple of years, it didn't matter what I was doing. If that message came in and somebody was interested, I was responding, because I'm like, I can't lose this client. I have to bite at it right now, right? And I built up that accountability now to where I will respectfully tell people, hey, it's a weekend, it's an evening, it's a holiday, I will get back to you. And they're always grateful that you just even say that. And so I just try to tell them, yeah, I'm going to get back to you on Monday. And they're usually pretty good about it, because otherwise, I don't know. You have to have that boundary. If you don't set the boundary, it'll never be there. So, it's a must.
Who else has questions for Kellie this morning?
What's your best advice for a first-time entrepreneur? You've done this, you've been there. If someone is just trying to figure out, they were taking a Start Up Minot class. I'm not going to count out of the bag. We have 2 of them who just started the class in the group today. What advice would you give them?
Ask all the questions and do as much research as you can, whether that is in those Facebook groups or it's meeting up with another person in your same industry to learn, what worked for them, what didn't, what's terrifying in the industry, what can you avoid very easily by simply asking these questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. I reached out to a few photographers when I first started, and a couple of them ghosted me when they found out I was still shooting in auto. And so I just learned that at that point I had to just dive down into this other rabbit hole. But that was where I found a whole other community of people that were willing to help. So search for it. Be as comfortable and as confident as you can going into whatever you're doing. And with that comes just simply being prepared. So learn as much as you can.
For those of us not photographers, talk to me. You mentioned shooting in auto a few times. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so shooting in auto is similar to what your cell phone can do right now, which is it sets the light for you. It sets portrait mode where your background is blurred and whatnot. When you've got a traditional real camera, you can set all of those things yourself, and you should learn how to do those. I actually remember the first good photo I took in manual. I was trying to take a picture of the full moon, and I had my biggest lens out, and I had it in aperture priority. That was, I feel like, my transition into shooting in manual. And I could not get it. I'm like, why won't it focus on the dang moon? And so I Googled it, and it was like, here's your manual settings. I was like, oh boy, here we go, right? I don't know how to do this. And it worked, and I was like, oh, now I have to learn how to do manual because it looks so much better, and it worked. But yeah, manual is just where you get to tweak it all to your preference. You can make your shadows darker, which I love. I love when you can add a little bit of mood to something. So it just gives you a little bit more creative freedom and to really kind of hone in your style when you just kind of learn your camera settings and your gear settings with anything.
And where can we find your business if we're looking to inquire how to hire Kellie for boudoir or anything else? Where do we find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I've got a website as well. Otherwise, you'll find me at Atypical pretty often as well, so you can chat me up there. But I'm always open for conversations. Yeah, find me on socials. I usually get back to people within a day or two. And coffee is always cool. I love to sit down and grab a coffee and chit-chat about, anything really.
Yeah, brainstorm, talk ideas, chat it up.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to share about your business that I didn't ask you about?
This year I've went more into prints, which is new. I've worked in the digital world for a very long time, 5-6 years now. And so I just ventured into tangible items, which are prints. I've got some up at Lexi Lou for the first time, some of my very first macro prints, where you can zoom in really close and get the details of a flower or bugs and all of that jazz. I've got those up at Lexi Lou. So just dabbling in, kind of sharing things very I don't know, big screen, it kind of feels like. And then we're in the works of getting some prints up at Trinity as well in the medical arts pediatrics unit. I was hoping to get my work up on the wall somewhere that I can show it off, and they were in need of some fresh work up there. So we're in the midst of conversations with maintenance to get them hung up, but I've got some giant metal prints sitting in my dining room ready to show off.
Is there a what's next for you or your business?
Usually that's as big of a mystery to me as it is anybody else, which it has been since day one. I never know what's coming. Usually if I'm like super booked with galleries, I'm just kind of riding the wave, and then I have like 1 second of free time and I'm like, let's do this now, right? There's another idea. So it just kind of depends on if I can bring it to fruition. So I do have a little something planned for later this year, but I'm going to just keep that under wraps and hope that it comes through. But if it does, it'll be cool.
Very cool. Well, we'll help you manifest that. Everybody, thanks for coming here. Let's give it up for Kellie.
Thanks, Dakota.
And remember, Startup Minot, second Thursday of every month. We'll be back next month. Please bring a friend, tell a friend. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.